Welcome to Story Punk, and today we are here to talk about the movie Superman.
Which one?
The
There are so many, not as many
are.
as there are Halloweens, or maybe we're getting there. I don't know, but which one?
True, this is the one from 2025. I should definitely clarify that.
Oh, okay, I saw
think
that one.
I think there's only two that are. Is there only two that are named? I think there's only two that Superman movies, but I don't
Who
know.
knows?
I think actually was the one from the 70s Superman the movie.
Oh, maybe that's true.
Maybe.
Could be.
I'm not sure.
That could be.
I have a funny story to tell about. I always have funny stories. Well, funny subjective. I always have stories. I should be.
The audience will let us know.
Yes, please. I'll put a poll up. Are Scott's stories funny? Probably not. Anyway, so why don't we we'll kind of go right into it here, and I'll just give you a little summary about what we're talking about.
Please.
And so basically, this is the James Gunn big bright reboot. We're coming out of the dark days of the Snyder verse movies. So basically, what this is, it's Superman.
Wait. Are you saying there won't be a Snyder cut of this movie? Oh man, I wanted 4 hours.
I know. I really wanted my Superman as Batman, and don't come for me in the comments because the Snyder bots will be out in full force. But anyway, we have Superman played by David Corenswet. And he is, at this point in the movie, he is already full-fledged Man of Steel Superman. He's already in the job as Superman for about 3 years.
It's not an origin story.
Definitely not an origin story. And what this particular story where we're kind of dropped into is that he is intervening in an international conflict, and he is suffering his first ever public defeat. That's sort of where the movie's starting. There's some text at the beginning that kind of...
There's a lot of text at the beginning.
Yeah,
they tried to give it a bit of organization, like 300 years ago this happened, and 30 years ago this happened, and 3 years ago this happened. And, it's like, okay. Like, it kept coming. I was like, I'm ready to go. I believe you.
There is... So basically they do try to set it up a little bit with some text. That's... How you feel about that is, I'm sure
I don't even know good or bad. Like, I just started watching the movie, and already there's a lot of, like, because I immediately started, and it's not necessarily wrong, but I immediately started thinking, well, you said 3 minutes ago he got his ass kicked. Why am I not seeing him get his ass kicked?
Uh-huh.
And it's fine. It's the tone he wanted to start the movie with. I'm not criticizing that. I have plenty of other things I want to talk about, but
sure,
it just felt weird. And then there was a dog, and then I was happy.
So, he's suffered his first public defeat, and then sort of seizing on this moment, we have his moment of weakness. At this point, we have like our tech mogul Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, and he breaks into the Fortress of Solitude, and he makes a very surprising discovery. Which is even unbeknownst to Kal-El.
Is it that Bradley Cooper is his father?
A little bit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I don't know how should I actually go in and say what the spoiler is at this point, or should we wait?
First say their spoilers, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
You can talk about it right now when it gets to that point in the story, or we can talk about it later.
I mean, well, let's just say, okay, let's talk about the actual spoiler a little bit. Let's just say it's a discovery that Superman himself isn't even aware of. That has to do with his origin, his true origin.
And
that
purpose.
is quite a departure from what we typically know as Superman's origin. And this Lex Luthor uses this as a way to sort of stir up a lot of public doubt and anger against Superman, and it sort of undermines Superman's goodwill to the public.
And mostly, it seems like Lex Luthor watched Brightburn. And enjoyed it,
and also watched The Boys and thought Homelander was the actual hero, and then sort of through this whole journey of the movie, he has obviously Lois Lane at his side, and then you have some. And then the, I guess you would call the scene-stealing, superpowered dog named Krypto, and
is that with a K?
Yes, with a K. And
I thought it might be.
It's better than naming him Bitcoin.
Yeah, right.
And then he does get some occasional help from the Justice Gang, which we'll go into more detail about who that all entails. And so Superman has to now navigate, not only these physical foes that he has to deal with, but he also has this media skeptical world that he has to navigate now, and he has to not only defeat everything that's going on with Lex Luthor, but Luthor. I said that like I feel like I said that like the Ned Beatty version from the Superman from the 1970s.
It's
Luthor.
if it Alexander Luthor.
And and also he has to reconcile his alien origins, with sort of like what he's got from his human upbringing on the Kent farm, and all while sort of trying to restore hope and trust in humanity. So that's sort of where we are, and obviously when you're talking about Superman, you're dealing with the themes just in general, whether in all forms of media with Superman, you're talking about hope and kindness, which James Gunn has said that's sort of what he believes the core of that story is. Honestly, the idea of like, how do you be a decent person in sort of the modern cynical world? I think that there was a real intentional effort to make his earnest goodness feel genuine, rather than just like he's like this naive person just navigating our world. So that's what, as far as the themes go. So what do you think about all that?
Well, I mean, I like an earnest movie. I like that it's kind of out of fashion, which I think is part of what James Gunn is trying to address. I mean, he is the guy for this reboot of DC movies. He got kicked out of Marvel because he tweeted something rude years ago, and they weren't going to let him do Guardians 3, and then they brought him back because that was a stupid thing to get rid of him for. And the Guardians trilogy, is one of the many things that James Gunn has done that I liked. I enjoy his movies and everything. But then in that time, he did the Suicide Squad movie, which that one's called The Suicide
Yes,
Squad, right? Which is a hell of a lot more fun than the Suicide Squad, which is just sort of a sad, doomed movie. But, he is an interesting choice because he's got a very specific approach to how he makes movies and how he tells stories. And there's an earnestness through a lot of those movies. Even Super, as a sort of unusually innocent character as the middle of it kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that this movie is trying to go, as you said, back to the basics of the Superman character, and truth, justice, and the American way, which is definitely earnest and also up for a lot of interpretation, especially that last one. But I think that the movie does that. It takes that approach and it does that. I don't know if I like it or not.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I do feel like what I think what I do like is that I don't feel like they're trying to be, it's sort of they're not trying to be ironic about it. I feel like I feel like it's almost like when somebody is trying to genuinely be good in movies, we have to, what do they say? Put a lampshade on it, where it's sort of like, he's trying to be good, but it's kind of silly that he's trying to be good, and they do that a little bit here, but I feel like it's more.
They do it more. That's how characters react to him. That's how Lex Luthor reacts.
That's or even in Lois
Lane.
Lois
Lane. That's how she's
too,
like, because I mean, the most earnest person in entertainment that I can think of, which is wonderful, that I grew up on, is Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
And Mr. Rogers' whole thing is like, why don't you just be kind to people?
Yeah.
And that's not cool. And that's dorky, and that's not the kind of thing people are, build a lot of movies around, except maybe for kids, which I don't have kids, so I don't watch as many of those movies. I'm not against it. I love, Pixar movies and stuff, the good ones. But, I think if you wanted to do a superhero movie about Mr. Rogers, I would be curious to see what somebody would come up with, because he just wants to be nice, and he wants you to be nice, and he wants you to grow up and be nice.
Sure.
And Superman in this movie is in some ways very childlike in his attitudes, and part of that, I think what James Gunn is doing is basically saying the world's going to try and wipe that off of you. I wish it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I like that sentiment.
Yeah.
Again, though, does it work as a movie? And we'll talk about that. So.
I mean, if we look at sort of like the sort of the plot point part of the movie, and where we're going with this, is that the film structure is basically, the Superman is he's basically facing consequences initially it's because of before we get into the whole before we get into the whole situation with what Lex Luthor finds at the Fortress of Solitude,
Right.
which I think we'll probably get into that in a minute here. But that he's facing sort of consequences for his international intervention with this war that's going on between these two countries, and he's trying to sort of navigate that whole situation. And I think what he's trying to do, and this kind of reminds me a lot of like what was going on with Marvel when Marvel was going through the whole Civil War, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was going through their whole Civil War phase, where it's like Superman wants to act on his own because he sees, hey, this is what's right, this is what needs to be done, and he doesn't want to be some government asset, and he doesn't expressly say that, but I'm talking about just in general. It's that he's not a government asset to be used at their discretion.
Well, he's also, and this kind of goes to the more not childish, but childlike thing about him. He's genuinely incredulous that someone would be like, I mean, I stopped a war.
Yeah.
How is that wrong?
Yeah, he just sees it like, and that's why it's Lois is a good foil to that character, because she like lives in the quote unquote real world, where she's like, it's so much more nuanced than that. It just can't be like, oh, I stop people from dying, and it's like, yeah, I mean, that's technically you did, but like there's so much more to it than just that, and there's so many implications to you just kind of flying in and doing what you think is right. It's
Well, also her job is to investigate and find the truth about things, because she's a journalist and an aggressive one, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is a movie where I think people are primed in this world to think about conspiracy theories about Lex Luthor, and in this case, they are right.
Yeah. Well, okay. So why don't we get into, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on what Lex finds out when he goes into the Fortress of Solitude, is that there is a message that Kal-El, I always say, I have trouble saying it. I say it like Gal Gadot. But that he only hears part of the message. The message apparently was damaged when he crash landed here on Earth, and he hears it's a comforting message from his mother and father, his Kryptonian mother and father, but the message is cut off. There's a second part to the message. Lex and his his minions or whatever go into the Fortress of Solitude. They are able to recover the second half of the message, which basically says not only do they want him to go to Earth, but his parents wanted him to basically take over the Earth. And I'm trying to remember the specifics, but more or less they wanted him to go, have babies, just to help me out here. What would you say?
They want him to conquer.
Yeah, to conquer.
I mean, every Superman premise is based on the same thing, that his home planet was destroyed and he was launched into space by his parents to save him, and he ended up on Earth, and he gets adopted by the Kents, and they raise him. And the reason I'm saying it in such a basic way is because you don't see any of that in the movie for quite a long time. And I don't think like what his parents actually wanted him to do on the planet is an interesting kind of idea. I don't think cutting the Kents out of it for so much of the movie is actually that interesting, because I really like the idea of he is this superpowered thing. He's a baby who doesn't know who he is, and decent people raise him. That's a nice thing, and that's a nice part of it. And they've done different stuff with that in different movies, including Kevin Costner's whole thing, like you can't do this in front of people. They'll come and get you, all that kind of stuff. And spoiler, like letting himself die before to save his son, kind of thing. Yeah. But I think when you find out that he's supposed to conquer, and Lex Luthor uses that against him by making people hate Superman and hashtag super shit and all that stuff, which hashtag super shit is that some of the response is actually pretty light to what the idea that this alien that you already know how powerful it is actually here to destroy all of you. And even though he hasn't behaved in that way other than basically doing things independently, I don't blame Earth and American government and all these people from saying things like, well, what if he decided to do something that wasn't nice? Which it's bad enough he's doing things that we don't want him to do. And I think is that supposed to be scarier? Because you don't for 1 second think he comes off as like he's just going to do that. He's frustrated as he is. He could maybe throw a tantrum, but he's not going to take over the world. And his name Kal-El is by the two Siegel and Schusterman, the two Jewish guys who created Superman.
Yeah.
His name means, depending on how you want to pronounce it, voice of God or light of God.
Okay.
Which is a very positive name. Now, I'm not saying you can't have Superman have a negative mission because his name means something good. I mean, people use language in different ways and whatever.
Yeah.
But the idea that message of his parents that are long lost comforts him. To me, that's almost more interesting and emotionally interesting than that there's a second half of the message that he is supposed to be a terrible monster. Like Brightburn is a kind of a neat movie because it's literally what if Superman was evil.
Yeah.
And it's just the beginning. It's the origin story, but you could make I hope they don't need to, but you could make a sequel, which is him becoming powerful enough to take over the world. And I don't believe for 1 second David Corenswet is going to do that. And I'm not sure how many people would really believe that, which is why it is genuinely like it's moving to see those kids raise the flag and call for help.
Because I mean, I think it is the movie's more about I don't think there's ever like you said, there's never really a question that we're like, oh, maybe he'll start following what his parents wanted. It's all about like the public reaction to it. Because
Right.
That's I mean, we see it all the time. Like people opinion can change on someone in a heartbeat.
Well, I mean, it happened to the director, so it's not like it's not like it's not a personal thing that he wants to
Well, I know
share.
that is something that people have said that they're like, is this sort of a self-insert sort of thing going on
Which,
here?
if it is, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I
mean, I think a
that
lot of
could have
people-
destroyed his whole career.
Yeah.
And some people have had their careers destroyed for doing things or even saying things. I don't know that he deserved to have that for an old tweet that's a dumb and inappropriate kind of joke.
Yeah.
But I don't think he when that happened, if you had said, well, he's going to be in charge of DC in a few years, I would have never imagined that, ever.
What do you think about this the change? I mean, like as far as your like as far as like I mean, do you think ultimately? I mean, I know you've kind of given your opinion, but as far as just story wise, I mean, do you think it works? Do you think it was an unnecessary change? I mean, I've heard some people say that they think that they didn't need to do this, but I mean,
What
I mean, to have the change from such a change from we have the expectation of what for the origin story of Superman, to have it change from that his parents were just like, we want you to go and be the protector, to we want you to go and be the conqueror.
Right.
That kind of a drastic change.
Because
some people don't believe it. Some people are like, we're tweeting out there like, is this going to be?
I was watching the movie and I kind of assumed at a certain point that we would find out that Lex made that up.
Yes, a lot of people did.
And that's the problem that I had with it is I didn't for 1 second think that Superman was going to be tempted to do that.
Sure, yeah.
And if you make that movie
Yeah.
where Superman considers being bad or is bad, like was it Superman 3 where they make an evil one?
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's that interesting.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like Superman. Superman is something decent in the face of all of that stuff. So I kind of felt like I was less interested in that idea than how it was manipulated against him. But I didn't for 1 second find it credible, and I don't know how many people would really find it credible in the world of the movie.
Yeah, but I don't think. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, because I was going to say, because it's definitely, I don't think it's ever played for, as far as what James Gunn was doing. I don't think it was ever played for, us as the audience to be like, will he, won't he? I think it was always played for the reaction of the people in the world. But I see you're saying that you don't know if the people that actually, like the people of Metropolis, were ever going to be like, oh no, he might do it. But also, there is the idea of, you think about the real world and conspiracies. I mean, you see the mental gymnastics some people pull.
Sure.
To pull this out, and it's like, all of a sudden people are talking about, does he we think he already has a harem out there,
Right. Oh yeah. Right.
and they're like, what? And so you do have people, I think even now, like, I mean, you got people that think that there are groups of people out there that have cults where they drink the blood of children.
Yeah.
And it's like normal people are sitting there like, what?
You have to remember, and this is, I think, portrayed fairly in the movie, although it's not that much of a plot point. If you're really hooked on the conspiracy theory thing in a real way, like a life-shaping way, not like I think this is neat, I wonder who killed JFK kind of stuff. Part of it is you always have the inside knowledge, right? That's why it's so compelling, because I know what's really going on.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you're going to come up with crazier and crazier shit, especially when the real shit is actually crazy. And then, of course, there are conspiracy theories that people didn't believe that are true. And there's a difference between I sort of found a way to jump beyond the paradigm to believe something.
Yeah.
And I have to believe something because it's so crazy. I have to be the only one that knows about it. And that's of course in our culture what's easily and profoundly manipulated.
Yeah.
That the movie shows a version of that with the reaction online to this news.
Yeah.
Which is going to be what it was, which is a montage of people, varying degrees of angry disbelief.
And I think there's probably, just like in the real world, I think there would be a spectrum. Like you said, there's going to be people out there that are going to be like, this is ridiculous. This guy, he's proven himself so many times to be our protector. He's not going to just turn on a dime and like go full Brightburn. You know what I mean?
Well, keep in mind also the thing that he stopped in the beginning was the invasion of this country. I don't know why. I found it more distracting than usual that it's not America. So like there's some stuff that's America, like Kansas, but then there's also Metropolis. It's not bad. Like that's a difference between Marvel, which is set in a version of our real world, but still has made up countries like Wakanda and stuff.
Yeah.
But Barovia is gonna invade Jarhanpur, which is very poor. And I feel like the essentially the agrarian unarmed people that are about to be killed when the Barovia invaded, which presumably is, we don't see it, but that's what Superman stopped.
Yeah.
I don't get the impression that those people spend a lot of time online. So the kids, that's not a criticism.
No,
they
I know what
probably
you
have
mean.
better mental health than a lot of us.
Probably.
But the kids that raised the flag to call Superman, they already saw him do it once, and they believe he'll do it again, and they're right.
Yeah.
And that is like, the movie is about, I guess, what can get in the way of all that stuff and how it's manipulated. None of it's subtle. It's not like I've got some insight or something. Lex Luthor is an analog to people in our world the same way that a lot of they are, and a lot of what happens in the movie is an analog.
I know. It's funny, too, when you think about how long ago that character was created, and you think through history, people that... it's not like he was created like within the last 10 years and you can say, oh, he was created as a response to this person in the real world. There's probably people throughout history that you're like, this guy, you could trace back that type of person to Lex Luthor. You know what I mean? It's not, I didn't really explain that very good, but you know what I mean?
Well,
Lex Luthor is an archetype for people that we've seen throughout history, not a response to what's already out there.
Right. Well, look, now we're talking about stuff that everybody knows, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but, storytelling reflects our world.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of very powerful forces politically and in the media that are shaping and continue to shape our world. And some people think that those have negative consequences, and the movie is about that as much as anything else.
So when it comes to, sort of the...
Also, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I meant to say this before. First of all, I dig that these movies legally have to, that they still have a credit created by Siegel and Schusterman.
Yeah.
From 1938. But they created Superman because of what was happening in Europe.
Yes.
They created Superman because the Nazis were becoming powerful. By 1938, they had already annexed Austria. They were, fascists. They were evil. So they said, like, what if somebody was, could oppose that?
Yeah.
And they made it patriotic as well, which is fine because that's what ended up winning the war, on our half of the planet. But he was from the beginning an outsider with, good, decent human morals who is literally created as a response to the reality of the world at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing to me. Sometimes it is almost sad. I mean, like sad as in like sad, not as in like sad, bad, sad as in sad.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Not the ironic sad.
Yeah, but like sad where you think about what art that's created as a response to something, and to think about what was created because of whether it's through oppression or through just generational trauma or whatever. I mean, like look at something like Sinners. You know, I mean, what that where that where you think about where the origins of a story like that comes from. Superman, what that was a response to, and it's amazing. But it's also, there is a little bit of, you do get a little bit sad too when you think about, like, well, this was probably a response to maybe a feeling of helplessness.
Yeah, well, I mean, Superman defends the helpless,
Yeah.
the weak. He gets justice for people who are, being subject to injustice, and that's what they were seeing.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody.
Well, they probably felt like there wasn't someone there
Well,
to
yeah,
do that, and
there
that's why
wasn't,
there
and
was a need.
and there wasn't, because
Yeah.
even just what was happening to Jewish people not being able to get out and
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. So they created that as a response to the real world, and so 80 years later or whatever, of course, this movie and this story is still a response to that sort of
Sure.
thing, which is good. I don't think it would be interesting to make Superman completely apolitical, because that character is, that part is based in the real world.
Sure.
And what he does. And that, to me, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but the most compelling parts of any superhero movie, just for me personally, are always when they save a regular person. I think that's just more emotionally that gets me more than
Sure.
he punched Zod for an hour around Metropolis. He saved a school bus of little kids. I'm talking about, like,
Yeah.
the Man of Steel. That's just more compelling. When Superman catches someone who's falling,
Yeah.
like, that's just a person, Lois Lane or whoever. That's when he stops a helicopter from falling off a building. Like, all that kind of stuff is just, that's so much more. It doesn't mean I don't like him defeating the villain, but that's so much more compelling to me.
Well, that's why I like also, I find, for me personally, what I find satisfying is when he does that, it's sort of in service to or response to when there's a supervillain. Because, like, if he saves somebody from an earthquake or just something, like, yeah, but it's so much more satisfying when he's saving the regular person from someone else who has powers that's deciding to use
Yeah.
them for evil.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's something, because there's scenes I remember from the Christopher Reeve Superman where that he's not really going against any real, like, maybe have Lex Luthor, but there's certain things, and you're like, it doesn't really have. I didn't feel the same as I did as in the second one, where he's fighting people that have the same powers as him, and he's saving the right. So it's like, I really get that sense. You're just like, yeah, that's. So I know what you're saying, and it's like, it's just so much even more satisfying when you see that in the face of. Because I feel like there's so much more at risk for that character, where he could actually be, it's like a helicopter falling and he saves Lois Lane. That's great, but what was the risk for him? I mean, a little bit.
I get it.
Yeah.
No, look, I mean, one of the best examples I can think of, it's one of the reasons and the tone of the movies that I keep returning to them, is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, which is very, very entertaining and really fun. And even the third one has a lot of good qualities, even though it has a lot of stuff that people don't like, and some stuff that I don't like. But the scene where there's a street fair and the Green Goblin shows up and kills the people that he feels did him wrong, like literally kills them. There's no chance that Spider-Man's going to get there in time to save those people.
Yeah.
But he can save the kid. That the thing is, like, the balloon is going to, like, an actual big balloon, not a little bit, is going to kill him. So he can save him. He can save Mary Jane, who's going to fall off. And that's all because of the Green Goblin. Even though it's unfortunate in that movie that when the Green Goblin kills the people who he feels stole his life and his company, he has no more reason to be in the movie and no motivation to hate Spider-Man, but that's a different conversation. But I mean, I see what you're saying. We're both agreeing that's the compelling part.
Yeah.
That's the subway in Spider-Man 2, which is why when, Big Pussy steps forward from the crowd and it's like, I'm a New Yorker, you got to go through me. It's such corn, and I just love it.
Yeah. And that's actually, and to make a connection between Spider-Man and this version of Superman, is that one of the reasons that I always loved Spider-Man was because I didn't feel like he was like just this impervious, like, all-powerful superhero.
Right.
And I don't feel
He's a kid.
And I felt like there was always a limit to his power. So he was strong and he could do a lot of stuff that a regular human could not do.
And he didn't need to wear his glasses. That's cool.
But with this Superman doesn't feel overpowered, which I know some people don't like. They like their Superman overpowered. I like this, and when people complain about that, as far as Superman as a character in this story, I do feel like, and I'm going to bring up another spoiler in this story, so be prepared. That what some people don't realize, when he's fighting the Hammer of Barovia, he's struggling, and people complain about that. You have to remember, first of all, he's not fully healed. But let's also remember the Hammer of Barovia, Ultraman. Who is that? It's a clone of him.
Right.
So of course he would struggle, and he's not only that. He's going up against this. He's going up against this character who's a clone of him. He's not fully healed, because if you remember, I think he's almost there. He's like 85%.
Something like that. Yeah, the robots in this Fortress of Solitude put him in the sun to heal him.
Yes.
And he's not quite there.
And he is, and even more so, like what we were talking about, like he makes that decision. I'm not fully healed, but I'm going to go right back into it. And it's a, I mean, I like that. And I don't think, I mean, you have some of these people online that are like, I should stop going online. But people are like,
yes, we should also.
I know, really. But they're like, oh, that's not, you don't understand Superman. I'm like, no, I think he does understand Superman. Superman is, and I think he understands sort of the fundamental idea of what it means to be a hero. A hero is being afraid, or knowing that you're outmatched and going in anyway.
Right.
I mean, that's what a hero in any sense is. And
the power is getting back up.
Yeah.
The power is somebody hurts you and it hurts and you get back up, which is, I mean, again, this is all obvious and surface. He's not trying to hide this in the story, but the whole brains versus brawn thing, we find out that he's been fighting himself physically.
Yeah.
And that the clone is controlled by Lex Luthor, who they something about, we studied all of Superman's moves, so they yell out like, do this punch, do that, but they don't. They just say the code or whatever.
The video game code.
So the only way Superman can win is to outsmart him, which the clone can't do. So brains do beat brawn.
Yeah.
And so making him have to fight something that is an equal. It's like Logan has a version of that.
Yes.
He has to fight his clone,
The younger version.
the younger, more powerful, clearly more powerful version. All that kind of stuff. And that's interesting, but I don't know how I feel about him being that weak. Like, I don't have a problem with the idea of somebody isn't as strong as they've been. We're going to change that about the character, but this is also a character, and some of it is because I'm not 16 and discovering the character for the first time in the movies, kind of thing. If you really want to get Superman, he's got one weakness, and if you can get kryptonite, you can at least essentially paralyze him and take his strength. I'm not really clear how much kryptonite you need to kill the guy, but you can immobilize him, which is what happens in the movie. But of course, his real weakness is that he cares about people.
Yeah.
And so that he can also get his nose broken or whatever. I don't really care. Like that. Like, I don't need that for Superman, because it's less interesting that you can beat the crap out of a guy whose real weakness has been this mineral from his home planet, and the fact that he cares, which is a pretty earnest weakness to have. And that's very, like, to me, that is, again, I'm not breaking new ground here, that's the heart of the decency of the character. Like, it was silly to a lot of people, but when Henry Cavill says, the sign on the S, it means hope. Like, that's what he represents. That's what he represented to people in 1938 as a shadow came on the whole world. And we could probably relate to some of those feelings now. But I didn't find that part of the character and the way they used it. I just didn't find it compelling.
Okay.
Because the way that they used the kryptonite was compelling. Okay. And that fit the character. But again, I'm not against characters evolving. And the way that we first meet Superman, where he's had his ass kicked, I don't know. It didn't bother me. Like, I don't have a problem seeing Superman bleed. I didn't have a problem seeing Wonder Woman bleed in Wonder Woman 1984. Everything else about the movie was wrong. But when Superman loses his powers in Superman 2, he had to have everything taken from him. He's not just not strong enough, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I I still don't know how I feel about this whole movie, in case you can't tell. And I do think it's worth watching again. And I see a lot of people who are like, I liked it, and then I saw it again, and I loved it. And I love movies that I change my opinion as I think about it, or I see it again, or whatever. I think that's just for me. I love that experience. But I feel like and I don't want. I liked it. I didn't like it. I think you liked it more than me. And
Maybe.
And I did not dislike it, but there's something magic happening for some people who are seeing this movie, and that didn't happen for me.
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have what we went through, the Zack Snyder. This is the thing, and this is the thing I have to say about this. People have very short memories until they took. Well, I mean, they didn't really take it away. I mean, and I feel like I should say, Zack Snyder had a very personal tragedy in his family, and that he left the project, and then Joss Whedon took it over.
5 years after he started it with Man of Steel, and then did Batman v Superman, he was driving it for a number of years before that happened, and he pulled out of it.
But the point I'm going to make is, those people hated Zack Snyder. They really did. If you go digging back, there was so much hate that they hated the way he did it until he wasn't going to do it anymore.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was like, it was like whiplash when I saw all the people that were defending Zack Snyder, and I was like, you people said you hated the way he was doing. Like, I couldn't believe it. And it was like, once they were denied it, then all of a sudden they wanted it, because I clearly remember so much hate for him. There was no save the Snyder. It was when they knew that there was another cut out there that's when it all started to turn. And I'm like, and I think what people were connecting with, it's like, this is a different take. It's very deliberately brighter, better, in regards of, like, they're not trying to make Superman.
It's a Joss Whedon take, which is a very different take than Zack Snyder, especially if Zack Snyder has established the tone of it.
Joss Whedon, I don't know if
I'm not saying it's good or bad. That's a different conversation. It's like literally the image is lighter.
Yes.
But, like, jokes about brunch or whatever, like that kind of silly stuff. Yeah. That's much more on brand for Joss Whedon than Zack Snyder.
Well, definitely. But I definitely think that it's a situation where it's a tone change that people are reacting to, and it's whether or not you like that tone change, I think, is where people are sort of, that's where the line is. And it's like, do you like that tone change, or do you like the brooding Superman? And I don't have a problem with either one. I mean, story wise, that varies, but I like some of the stuff in Batman versus Superman. I thought some of the stuff looked interesting. Justice League, not so much.
I mean, people just like to hate stuff. So I hated Zack Snyder. Now Zack Snyder is gone. Half of them might have been like, Zack Snyder's gone. I wasn't done hating him yet. So I'll just hate the new guy kind of thing. Look, to me, a lot of that is that old joke, which we were talking about, making this character in the 30s. It's like this food is terrible and the portions are too small. Like that. Like, you're never gonna be satisfied. So I don't really ultimately care what you're screaming about. Never mind the stuff that you're screaming about is ultimately there are people who are like, I'm gonna kill this director because I don't like what he did with this character. Blah blah blah.
I mean, like, one of the things as far as for James Gunn, like, one of the things that I do sometimes, I feel like he's not extremely confident in letting certain genuine moments just kind of sit there, and I say this as someone who's never made a movie, but I'm just saying that I think sometimes he feels like, I feel like there's a very genuine moment between Lois Lane and Superman where he's talking about he's going to turn himself in, and he's like talking about and I feel it's like, I mean, whether or not you want to dismiss it because he's just talking about Krypto, and he's like, he's a dog and he's probably afraid, and he's like,
I was worried about him.
And then the whole time in the background you have this silly battle going on, which is kind of funny, but it's sort of like, is this the time for that? Like, I don't know. I mean, like, maybe if it would have kind of went away and then they kind of let that moment sit.
I see what you're saying.
And then there's a few times, and that's something he's always done. So it's sort of like, I kind of made my peace with that. It's like, that's his style. But sometimes I do kind of wish that he would kind of let, like, let's maybe tone that down a little bit and let that sit. I mean, just personally as an
I get
audience
it.
member, that's sometimes I like the genuine moment, and I don't want to see something out of the corner of my eye. Well, I don't want to
get
see
it.
I don't want to see a big Green Lantern bat smacking a
Right.
flying meatball.
Well, especially because it wasn't a meatball, Scott. It was a dimensional imp.
That's right. I'm sorry.
But I think is what he called it. But,
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's either they said it's either got to be Batmite or Mr. Nixelplix.
Mr. Mixtaplex.
Yeah, I always get that
a
wrong.
superhero who can exist without.
I'm
vowels.
terrible. I'm terrible with names.
Well, but I mean,
we've established
James
that.
Gunn has done that.
Yeah.
Successfully in
Yes.
a number of movies. I mean, like
Sure.
when Chris Pratt finds out that Kurt Russell killed his mom.
I do love that.
It's a great scene, and it's very real emotion. Like what kind of anger would that be? All that kind of stuff. And then, I mean, Jesus Christ, Rocket's whole story in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's like there's no laughing about the slaughter of his friends and things like that. Like it's
When
very serious, and it works. I think.
And sometimes it does work when he says, because there's the initial thing when he realizes when Ego when Ego tells him that that he put the cancer in his mother.
This is
and
in
he's
Guardians
like,
2.
Yeah, in Guardians 2, I should say. And he tells Star-Lord that, and Star-Lord's like, what? And totally takes him out of that trance that he's put him
It breaks
in.
the spell.
But that's a good moment, and I don't think they really make that a joke until what's his until Michael Rooker comes and says, "Hello, jackass."
Right.
He comes, but when the scene, and they put a joke in there, but it's still powerful when Chris Pratt and Kurt Russell are fighting. And he says, "You shouldn't have killed my mom and smushed my Walkman." And that's kind of a joke, but it's like, that's kind of real.
Well,
though.
emotionally, it's real.
It's real. It's like I could see that. Like if you're so emotional about something and you just start saying like stupid shit because that bothered you too, but you're just throwing it all out there because it's all coming out, and you're like, you killed my mom and you broke my favorite thing. You know?
Well,
And-
also, I mean, if you're, audiences, reacted to that in the way I think James Gunn would want them to react to that, and when spoiler Michael Rooker dies, what's
Yes.
that line? I'm not your father, but I'll always be your daddy.
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like
yeah, that's that.
audiences like wept,
Dude, that was
especially if you have dad issues.
I have a very personal. That really spoke to me, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
I was like, "That."
And there's nothing. This is that right after I'm Mary Poppins, y'all kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it's great. And I guess that's the thing about James Gunn that it usually works for me. He has this very broad range of tones that I don't think most people. It's not so much most people wouldn't get away with; it's most people wouldn't be able to pull it off.
Yeah,
And there are movies from foreign countries, like some movies from South Korea, like The Host, or a lot of Indian movies that the tones are much more variegated and broad than in the Western equivalent of that kind of movie. And I guess it didn't work for me in this movie.
Okay.
It didn't make me not like the movie. It didn't make me think it was a bad movie that isn't worth watching. It didn't make me get like, sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, I don't understand what people are seeing in this.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's not for me. But I feel like maybe that was what my disconnect was that I wanted to connect with it more. And a lot of people are giving it 4.5, 5 stars out of 5 because it did that for them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hyped up for me. I didn't read a lot about the story or anything like that. I knew who was in it. I love the cast. There's a lot of people in it that are great. But I think that was the problem that I had.
Lois Lane, how do you say her last name?
I believe it's Rachel Brosnahan.
Brosnahan. Okay.
You can also call her Mrs. Maisel if you want.
Yes, I do know she is. And
She's a wonderful actress,
I
and
thought
she's
she
very
was
good at
great.
it.
She was a great, as I was saying before. I think that the character, her version of Lois, is a great foil to Clark.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because it's something about it where I think it's part of his he wasn't trying to be necessarily evilly deceptive when he was doing where he's basically publishing interviews of himself. He's interviewing Superman as himself, and she's like, you can't do that.
Right.
That's
actually a breach of journalistic ethics.
And he just he doesn't get it, but it's like he doesn't get it because he just thinks like, well, I'm letting the people know, and like it doesn't really cross his mind like you're being deceptive. And
that's the childlike part of him. Like that's a grown up thing you should know about Clark.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And then also as far as like, just talking about the characters, I do agree with you. I do feel like they kind of stuffed the Kents for the, I do wish maybe that they had been threaded a little more into the story.
Well, I mean, a lot of other movies did that. Man of Steel had flashbacks throughout
Yeah.
the movie, that kind of stuff. And if you don't want to do the same thing, I think that's fine. But
Yeah.
see, part of it is that, and I don't think there's like so many of these movies.
Yeah.
And this is another reboot of a character that's been done in one version or another as a movie.
Yeah.
A live action movie since 1978 that is part of this world of movies being blockbusters and stuff. And so the older you are, the more that you've seen it and the more that you have an opinion about it and the more that you know what it is. And Christopher Reeve is the only really best Superman. People have all kinds of opinions about stuff like that, but this is not an origin story. But it feels like it starts in a weird place that I should already be familiar with it. And maybe the idea is you are familiar with this character, but look how this is different.
Yeah.
I found it, I was like, I don't understand the first half hour of the movie, how I'm supposed to feel about some of this. Again, it's not that it's bad. I didn't like it. It was boring. It's not like you don't need to do this like the first hour of the new Mission Impossible movie, which I had such a great time at. But you're like answering questions and showing me things that I don't need. I don't know why you're doing it. In this movie, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about these things. Like he and Lois have been dating for 3 months, and he's already Clark Kent, who has glasses that hypnotize you or something. But I
Apparently
don't know.
that's a comic book thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there are references to stuff that I didn't get, but I think it's that, like it's the same, but it's different, but it's familiar. That put me out of the movie at the beginning a little bit, which to me, the part of the movie that you really want to work as a filmmaker is you want to nail the ending, because that's what people will leave with. And there's certainly movies like Mission Impossible Final Reckoning where I forgot all about the first hour, that I didn't hate or anything. By the time, we're like getting in submarines and flying, jumping around on biplanes and, all that kind of stuff. But I think maybe to me that's a story structure thing that's deliberate and conscious, and that just didn't work for me. I don't want it to sound like I didn't like this movie, I hated this movie. It's not true.
I don't think it's coming
It's
across
not
that
true
way.
at all.
Yeah.
And I liked some of what it did, and I want the earnest to work for me, but some of the earnest felt the worst way that I think people feel about earnestness, which I'm really sad about for this movie, which is it's childish in like a judgment way. I think Superman, his character is childlike in some ways, and that's a decision, and that's fine, and that makes sense to me. I don't want people to see a movie like this that it does have things to say and be like, "What's for kids?" Because look how childish it is. I don't think they do that.
What I do like about the Kents, though, I do like how I feel like I do feel like they were very authentic to, and I do know James Gunn said that was something that he was trying to go for. He didn't want to make it seem like, because a lot of the other iterations of Superman, you're like, wow, it's like this huge like farm that he lives on, and this doesn't feel like, this feels like as like I kind of got the impression it was like, this is like probably like a little rinky dink farm that you might see like, well, living here like in Maryland, like, you have some of these smaller farms, and it's not like some huge like.
I live in the country, and just so you'll know, they wouldn't like if you said rinky dink. You could
I take that
You
back.
could just say small family farm.
I should say small family farm.
That's the myth making and often the truth. So.
I should say, rinky dink. I did not mean any
I know
disrespect
you
for that. I meant as a comparative to the work, because it seems like you might get the idea, and I think this was intentional from James Gunn, that his Superman doesn't come from, he's not rich.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, you get the impression when you go there that, and I did hear some
They're just nice
criticism.
people.
Yeah. You just get some criticism. They were like, oh, they're like, they made them look like white trash. I'm like, no, I don't think.
No.
Yeah. And I was like,
I didn't get that at all.
Wow.
And they weren't like they weren't
some
like
of the-
cartoons. They adopted a kid.
Yeah.
which is a very, depending on what happened in your life, can be very relatable.
Yeah.
And he's very fortunate that these people found this baby.
Yeah.
And raised it, and they're decent people. And I don't know, Pruitt Taylor Vince as Jonathan Kent. What an interesting casting choice. I love him. He is a character. He's an actor that you see him in things where he is genuinely creepy because of how he looks and his eye thing, and then you can see things where he's just the sweetest.
Yeah.
And in this, he delivered.
Yeah.
Mom was a little less distinct, but the whole when I remember watching the movie yesterday and thinking when we finally got to the farm, I liked that. I was relieved that we're finally here. And when they lay him down in his childhood bed and Lois sees his room and is learning more about him, I thought that really worked. I really dug that. And that's because and everybody will bring their own family experience to that kind of stuff. But that's, to me, there's a part of that is that's what family is supposed to be.
Yeah.
That your parents love you, and if you get in trouble, they will help you because they love you. Not about bailing you out, but like, where's he going to go to heal because they destroyed his fortress with his robot friends? Yeah. He went home, and that's what home means. And that's, again, the whole movie is, of course, full of archetypes and things like that work in these movies. But I like your read of it that they're just people.
Yeah.
And I didn't get any of the way that could be interpreted in our world today. Those are real Americans or any of that nonsense. They're just people.
Like
and they're nice people.
I would see these would be the type of people that probably have maybe they have like a farm stand. You know what I mean? Like they're not selling to like supermarkets and stuff like that.
Right.
Like they're probably selling like they have enough that they can maybe make they can have a business out of it.
And they grow crops and they milk cows. Well, I want to talk about Krypto in a little bit, but
actually
the whole idea of you got to keep an eye on the dog because he's gonna eat our cows or whatever. Like
that was actually where I was kind of going to go next was the
funny.
Krypto because if we kind of unless you had some more to say
no
about that.
That's
so just kind of moving on to like Krypto, like, and honestly like I like dogs, so Krypto was fine for me. I think that
do people not like him in the movie?
I mean, I think some people thought it was silly. I didn't. No, I wasn't one of those. I'm just saying that I don't know how you couldn't. I think some people might thought it was a little too much, a little too silly, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's a comic book movie. I don't understand.
I didn't think it was. He gave an element of heart to every sequence that he was in that I needed.
It's based on it's based on James Gunn's dog.
Oh, okay.
And he said he got this dog apparently it was a pet hoarding situation.
Okay.
Where they had like this. I think it was a woman had like or a family had like 60 animals. Mm-hmm. And he said he saw the dog and the dog had like one ear kind of like sticking up and he was like, I want that one. And he said he brought it home and the dog tore the shit out of his house. He said he was on the phone like talking to people and the dog wants to nip at his. He had to sit on his the island in his kitchen to talk to people. Yeah. Like he's trying to make like deals and talk about stuff.
That's a real commitment to take something like that into your life. That's great to hear.
Yeah. So he and then he was actually showing like he has like a theater. Of course, if you're a movie director, no shock, he has a big theater in his house. And when they were showing like some of the test stuff footage for Krypto, like his dog was like barking at the at the screen.
Of course.
But I mean, like I like it. I don't know. I don't understand why people. I think sometimes those are probably the Snyder bots that are complaining about. But I honestly, I mean, like, so did you? I mean, like, I think you're right. I think it does. It gives it some heart.
When you first meet him, it's silly.
Yeah.
You just told me Superman got his ass kicked. He needs help.
Yeah.
His dog helps him. I'm totally down with that. He's a super dog, so he can drag him home. I'm totally fine with that.
Sure.
But he doesn't just come and rescue him. He's not serious. He licks him and jumps on his wounded master and all that stuff. And that's the tone, which is very James Gunn to me as well. Uh-huh. And he brought that with that whole thing where like it's actually important to the story and to the success of our heroes that he bites every toy he can. I know dogs that behave this way or that way or whatever, sure. and I'm not surprised that it's based on a real dog, but I don't know, I kind of like that it's based on a dog with that kind of story because that's a feral animal that I'm sure at this point James Gunn always loved, but maybe the dog is a little more used to being in family, and you find out at the end of the movie that this dog isn't even really his dog. It's his drunk cousin's dog or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I dug it, and I dug the whole sequence where Superman has to hold a baby up while they're trying to escape the pocket universe.
Yes.
I loved all of that stuff, and not just because it reminded me of Bahubali, one of the great movies by Rajamouli, the director of RRR, but it's I don't know, that dog just worked for me.
Yeah.
And I was worried about him at certain points.
Sure.
And for Superman to be like, "Where's my dog?"
Yeah.
He I don't think he curses in the movie. He gets people say shit in front of him, but I like almost heard it as, "Where's my fucking dog?"
Yeah.
And that I could certainly relate to that. And that was his priority, was where is this? Because his dog is his family. I mean, these robots were also his family too. And legally, I think at this point, and he's wonderful, you have to have Alan Tudyk do the robot voice, because he did it in iRobot, he did it in Rogue One, he's robot number 4 here, who wants to be Gary. Like, he's great.
Have you heard the story going around about him and iRobot?
What? That
With
he
Alan
was, the
Tudyk?
audiences liked him more?
Yes.
I have heard that.
That
I don't
makes
think
me
that movie, I think that movie's garbage adaptation of the book, obviously, but that movie has some fun stuff in it, and his performance is great. So it's not at this point inspired casting to pick Alan Tudyk. That's like, this is the guy, and let's use him, and he's great. But no, I mean, Krypto was, and anybody who knows me will find this the least surprising thing about my reaction to the movie. Krypto worked for me.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the way that they used the character. I really enjoyed the way that his presence mattered.
Sure.
Not just as we got to rescue the dog, but like when they've got him hooked up in the pocket universe and he's chasing squirrels.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when we're done with him, we're gonna kill him. I was like, no.
Yeah. So I thought, as far as when you think about like all the characters that they had, first of all, when I see people talk about how, the movie's overstuffed, I kind of felt that while there are a lot of characters in this movie, I kind of felt that they didn't give some of the characters enough time, and that it didn't feel overstuffed to me, because I think they actually sacrificed. I mean, there's some characters in there that I know who their names are, but I didn't feel like they really did anything in the movie, especially the whole Daily Planet.
I was going to say half the journalists in the ship that get away at the end. I like Beck Bennett a lot. I couldn't tell you his character's name.
I forget what his name. I do know the girl with the white hair. Excuse me, the actress with the white hair. Her name. Oh my gosh, I forget what. But that's like a.
See, you can't remember.
Yeah,
and that's
but
I mean,
I actually
whatever,
know. I know who that character is.
What, from the comics or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
and she actually was played in the Supergirl TV show. She was actually played by Harrison Ford's wife. What the hell's her name? I lost it. I can't remember now.
Oh, from Ally McBeal.
Ally McBeal,
I'm totally
yeah.
blanking on her name.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You guys will know. But anyway, that was it's like cat something or whatever. But anyway, like that's a real character.
Well, what you're really saying is, it. Unfortunately for you, as someone who knew the character, it doesn't matter that you know the character or not, because they gave him short shrift.
Yeah,
And
or
I get that.
even Perry White. That was a character that I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a minute or two more of screen time for him.
Well, it is funny that there are a couple of not only Baltimore connections,
Yeah.
because we're Baltimore boys. So obviously Perry White, that actor was in The Wire.
Yes.
And one of the leads in The Wire, and is a wonderful actor.
Yes.
And David Corenswet was actually in We Own the City.
Yes.
And I don't know. There are people from Baltimore, politics, and people from Baltimore who hate that Baltimore has had all these things, like The Wire's about drugs.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of being from a town that has these stories that someone, David Simon in this case, is telling so powerfully, and to see people come out of those projects like Michael B. Jordan, and become stars.
Do you know?
I love it.
Do you know there's another Baltimore connection?
What is it?
Guy Gardner is a Baltimore City police officer.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's
Oh, I
his
didn't know
origins.
that.
Now that wasn't
That's
the
funny.
very first version, but they did.
You're talking
they
about
did-
Nathan Fillion's haircut.
Yeah, yes. The like I think it was like the second iteration of that character. Like I think his original origin was something different. But then he actually like when they
So
did,
after
like,
Ryan Reynolds retired, you're saying?
Well, so anyway, yeah. There's a whole thing. He's actually going to be. There's a Lanterns TV show that's coming.
Oh, I think
he's
heard
going to
that.
be in that. He's also going to be the Peacemaker show. He's going to be in that as well.
That was a funny little John Cena showing up and
I
being
know.
on
Oh
screen,
yeah,
being on screen
forgot
for
about
maybe
that.
8 seconds
Yeah,
and
and
making an impression in
But
the right way.
well, if I don't know if have you seen the first season of Peacemaker?
I've seen some of it, and it's very entertaining.
Yeah, well, and he is like, I know people were like, he's disrespecting. Apparently, the guy who played Arrow, the guy who played Arrow in the CW, he was mad because they made some kind of Green Arrow joke. And the first season, it's like, dude, he's talking about the character, and also the character of Peacemaker is an idiot. He just believes everything he reads. He's the type of guy that when he sees something, like if he saw something on Facebook, he was like, "Oh, that's real."
Right.
So,
he's great in the Suicide Squad movies.
yeah. So he, but I do feel like the Justice Gang. I mean, they were fine, and I almost feel like they were serving another purpose when I'm talking about as far as how they fit everybody in to the movie. I almost felt like their purpose really was to say, "Hey, there are superheroes in this universe because there are going to be other movies that are coming." And it was sort of a way that we won't kind of question, like every time there's a new movie and there's a new character introduced, the people in that story universe continuity, people aren't going to be like, whoa, who's this new guy?
Right.
They're kind of just going to accept it. And I kind of feel like that's sort of more of what their purpose was, other than to be like they were there, but like I didn't really feel like I feel like that was more of their purpose than to be actual allies to Superman, which they were. But
Yeah.
I feel like that was sort of the heavy lifting they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that in any of these movies that are going to kick off a franchise, like Man of Steel or Iron Man or whatever. I did like that there are 2 post-credit scenes for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They may have references to comics, but they are not saying, "Oh, you're going to want to watch this TV show."
Yeah, apparently
And
that was intentional too.
No, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
surprised. And of course, I mean, like Krypto finally being calm and putting his shoulder on Superman's, or putting his chin on Superman's shoulder while
Yeah.
they're looking at Earth from. I loved it. What can I say?
And
It was so sweet.
I mean, and I thought like, and Nathan Fillion was. I mean,
He's very entertaining.
He's always great. And can we talk about just for a second, Mr. Terrific, Eddie
Dithigi, I think.
Dithigi,
I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, sir, but you were excellent in this
he
movie.
he was definitely. Everybody said he's a scene stealer, and even the last the post, because that was the post credit scene.
Yeah.
Just
About
that cracked me
the
up.
building. Yeah,
the
it's
building
funny.
was like not.
There's a
perfectly
lot
aligned.
of good stuff in this movie.
And that was I do feel like they underutilized Hawkgirl a little bit.
Well, every time that she screamed and the hawk noise came out, I thought it was a little silly.
It was a little silly.
I like Isabel Merced.
I do. Do you know that she was filming this at the same time she was filming Last of Us, and she was flying back and forth from British, like from
That's what
Ohio
Michael.
to
That's
British
what Michael
Columbia.
J. Fox did with Back to the Future. He was doing Family Ties, and he was shooting Back to the Future. I don't know how you survive that sort of thing.
That would be, man. That would be really. That'd be a bit much. Hey, here's a question for you. What did you think of the James Gunn's decision to use the red trunks? Did you have a problem with that?
Yeah, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I know. People were like, "Oh, it's so weird. He looks so dumb," and I'm like, "Really?"
Well, I think the thing worth discussing more, which we haven't talked about very much, is the political part of the movie. Again, over interesting. I mean, Superman is literal alien.
Yeah.
And he comes to America in this case, the world, but America. It's not an accident that he's set in America, and has been. But he's an alien, and he turns himself in, and they throw him on the ground and all that kind of stuff. Which they have the same thing in Man of Steel, where he turns himself in and they handcuff him, and it's just kind of silly. But the whole war and why people would have a war and the disparity between the army and the citizens and everything. I mean, that's a situation that is built for Superman, which is what the movie started out with. And he doesn't understand why I wouldn't do that. And yes, there are definitely analogs that people have a lot of strong feelings about from the movie, but I didn't have. I think some people had a problem that it was in the movie. I don't have a problem with that. These movies are more interesting in a lot of ways if you continue to push the real world analogs.
That's exactly how I felt.
They had the hashtags of people hating Superman and his harem, and then they also had things about countries lying about why they're invading and what their real goals are and all that kind. I don't have a problem with any of that stuff.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's you're right. I feel like when it's when these movies are grounded in real world situations, and I think that was the goal here was to have, here's a thing that happens in our world, and we're gonna have Superman involved in something that's real. It's the same thing with the Winter Soldier for the Captain America movie, where it was like, are we gonna start looking at getting, arresting people, like we're going to use our algorithms and our computers to figure out
and
before people are even
all
committing
the surveillance
crimes.
stuff. Yeah, that's Minority Report. That's lots of stuff.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I think and that makes it infinitely more interesting than just some space robot or some blue light in the sky from some chunk of whatever from another dimension or whatever. That's, I mean, those are fine, but if you really want people to be invested, the real world part of it is what makes
Look,
it.
this movie has, a big finale and lots of effects and all the things that all these movies have and whatever, but there's no sky beam.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
Do you know it? I mean, and we can talk. I don't know if there was much more you wanted to say, like the political part of it. I mean, obviously there was a lot of super woke. The people were calling it. Certain groups out there are very not happy that they talked about the immigrant part of it. I mean, technically, he's a person that came here from another place.
Yeah.
And
I believe he contributes to society.
Yeah.
As many people come to this country because they
Sure.
want better lives.
Yeah.
And this country, in many ways, the simplest version of it is that can happen here.
Yeah.
In ways that it doesn't happen where they're coming from. It's not a mystery why people come here.
Yeah.
And it's also not a mystery why people come here and they don't commit other crimes, because
Yeah.
they are not here through legal processes. So when people say that they've done something illegal and it's a civil violation and everything, I understand what you're saying, because what you're really saying is this person is illegal.
Yeah.
And to dehumanize people is wrong. And Superman literally can't be dehumanized because he's not human.
Sure.
But he gives a shit about us. That's the character. That's what he says to Lex Luthor at the end. All this kind of stuff.
I mean, and that's what he sees too at the end. That's one of the part of what he says at the end too. Is he's looking at, he's like, he likes the human, like he sees the human experience, and he's like, I like all that stuff. It's
Right.
like I'm not rejecting it.
I've already rejected what I found out my parents sent me here
Sure.
for, and I didn't even know I was rejecting it.
Yeah.
Because I'm decent. And that kind of makes Lex Luthor look like an even bigger dickhead. I love Nicholas Hoult, the actor.
He originally tried out to be Superman.
I think that he would have been an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I mean, David Corenswet is fine, and physically, of course. I mean, I'm not. What do the kids say? Butthurt about this. I thought you can have your own opinions about the movies, of course. I really liked so much of the Man of Steel movie. I think Henry Cavill, I see why they couldn't continue with him. I thought he was wonderful. He was a wonderful choice, and I see him in other things as a villain with a mustache or whatever. I missed him playing that role. And David Corenswet, I'm not there yet with him. But I mean, I will at some point see this again, and if I guess James Gunn is going to do the next DC movie also, I'd certainly be curious about it.
One thing I do want to talk about before we wrap it up is that I do want to talk about them incorporating the John Williams music.
I'm never going to argue with that.
That is so.
They did it well.
It reminds me, like when I saw the first trailer for this and they used that, like I mean, like literally got tears in my eyes, because my grandfather was the reason that if it wasn't for my grandfather, we probably wouldn't even be doing this podcast, because he is the person that got me into movies. He's the one that explained editing to me, even though I remember I was a kid and I didn't even understand editing. I was like, and he's trying to explain editing to me. My grandfather was an accountant. You know what I mean? It's not like he knew anything like more than your average person. And trust me, back then in the 80s and 70s, much harder to get this information, but he just understood and explained editing to me even, and I really got into it. And I remember, and I'll keep this short because I know we're starting to run a long time here.
That's all right. I'm not going to tell you to cut off personal
observation,
Scott.
He was taking me to see because I'm old, guys. He took me to see the Christopher Reeve, the first one, first Superman movie, because my grandfather, just when he was born, in the 20s, he so he Superman, he loved the serials, the movies, and all that stuff, and he was excited to take me to see the movie. And my grandparents had this clock that was just low enough that I could reach it. And the clock did not have a cover on it, so the hands were exposed. And I can't remember, it was a certain time we were going to see an evening show on a Sunday, and I kept moving the hands up. Now, I don't know what I thought I was doing by doing this.
Changing time.
I thought because I wanted us to leave earlier.
Right.
Now, it wasn't going to start the movie any sooner, but you couldn't tell my 7-year-old brain this, right? So
you would have been really upset if you found out all I need to do is go really fast around the earth.
So,
but you had better pick the right direction, or it'll be longer till you see the movie.
I kept bumping the time up.
That's
bumping
so
the
funny.
time up. I said to my grandfather, "Oh, hey, is it time to go yet?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we need to go." So we get to the movie theater. My grandfather.
Oh, so it worked.
Oh yeah. Oh, we get to the movie theater. My grandfather looks at his watch. He goes, "Wait a minute, we got here really early."
Nice. Well done.
So we left early. So we sat there, and this is back in the day when they probably showed maybe one. This isn't the way it is now, where you sit through literally 25 minutes worth of trailers. If you were lucky, you had an advertisement for the concessions and one trailer.
Right.
That's it. And so we were there so I just sat there, and my grandfather talked until they let us into the movie theater, and that was it. But that was my so anyway, the point was I have that. That's on my phone, that song, the original John Williams song, and that has such a strong connection for me to my grandfather and the movies in general. And when I heard that, it was literally almost brought tears to my eyes.
Look, I mean, you and I both love film scores.
Sure.
I'm sure we'll continue to talk about them. But I mean, John Williams is, the most obvious choice. If you think of a composer, he's so many movies, so much influence, so many Oscar nominations, all this kind of stuff. And, we talked some time ago about how, there are tropes because formulas work. Some formulas work.
Yeah.
And I mean, John Williams is one of those people where you're like, he's, this, epic overarching character in the world of film, not just music, but in the world of film, because he's John Williams, because his stuff is that good. So I'm not surprised that, music that connected with you as a child, almost 50 years later, I had to do the math for a second. And I was like, I'll be 50 next year, so I think I can pull this off. It still
I'll
has
that part.
No, don't.
I'm
fine.
joking.
Generation X forever.
Yeah.
But that's why I love the music. I love the music because it continues to be resonant.
Can I one more aside, and then I'll move on. But have you heard the story that Steven Spielberg talked to John Williams about doing the score for Schindler's List? And when he showed John Williams a rough cut of Schindler's List, John Williams said, he goes, "You need somebody better than me to do the score to this movie." And Steven Spielberg said, "You're right, but none of those people are alive." So
that's nice. Well, that's like the story. It's a true story. Not that that's not true, but they were John Williams is conducting. I guess he was actually the conductor as well. The score for the end of E.T. And it wasn't working. The music was as good as it is, but it was not lining up right in the scene. I don't know what their explanation was. It wasn't working. And Spielberg, instead of getting angry and frustrated, was like, "All right, you guys do it right, and then I'll cut to it." Talk about editing. And that's what he did. And that, I mean, you want me to start crying? Find E.T. in the river when he's all white for the next 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm done. No, but a lot of that is the music.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes it's I've said it before. Sometimes it's used as a crutch, but sometimes when it's done well, it's just, who cares?
Well, they got the composer of Kick-Ass to do the Superman movie, so it's fun.
Just kind of wrapping up on the idea of do you feel that what this movie was trying to do? Do you feel like it achieved what it was trying to do? Because I know it seems like maybe you have some question about whether, or am I interpreting that wrong?
I think it set out to. I think it did what it set out to do for most viewers. It didn't do it as well for me or as much, and I don't think that makes it a bad movie or anything. This is one of those movies that people are having these transcendent experiences with, and I wish that I had more of that reaction to it. I didn't, and that's okay. I have my favorite movies. I have those reactions.
Sure.
I knew a couple of people that saw Mad Max Fury Road, and they were like, "I don't get it." I didn't think, well, therefore they're dumb. I just thought, I wish that you could experience this movie and have this, full emotional, powerful reaction to it, and I mean, I want that with every movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I live a life of perpetual disappointment because most movies aren't that good. If they were all that good, it wouldn't be special. But this movie, I think James Gunn accomplished emotionally, I think, and storytelling wise, a lot of what he wanted to do. Now, do I think that he did a good job setting up the next movies? I don't know where they're going with this.
Yeah.
I really don't. And that's okay, because I wouldn't trade Krypto snuggling Superman's shoulder for any other post-credit scene I've ever seen. But I don't know how much that's going to be. I do think it's smart, as it didn't feel like this with the last round of the DC Extended Universe or whatever they call those movies. He's essentially going to be, Marvel's Kevin. And drive the whole thing. Yeah. Whether you like the results or not, it's going to drive the whole thing. And I think that is the only way to build these and make them satisfying to the general audience. Of course, there are people who are going to hate it. Yeah. But who cares?
I mean, I think that... I
mean, online, screaming.
I mean, I do feel like it is... everybody talks about superhero fatigue. But honestly, I feel like this movie just says, hey, if you have a good story, a decent story, it's not about... I think we're just tired of, feeling like we're watching just mass factory produced stuff.
Look, I mean, when we decided to do this, to watch this movie, to have this conversation, you had already seen it.
Yeah.
I was already on my list. I want to see it. It wasn't like, oh God, I got to go see another superhero movie, something like that. Yeah. And some of the superhero movies that have come out recently, I really liked Thunderbolts. Yeah. People apparently didn't like it, and they certainly didn't go to the movie theater the way that they did for other Marvel movies. And I hear Fantastic Four is fun, and I'll see it at some point. But, I just want to have a really engaging experience at the movies. Sure. Whether I'm laughing or I'm scared, and I am easily scared, or
wait till you go see Weapons.
Or whatever. Yeah, I am looking forward to that. I wait till you see Barbarian.
I know, I'm a little nervous. I do get nervous seeing... Anyway, I don't want to... But I do feel like one of the other things too is that I do feel like it in a world where we have the sort of the superhero fatigue, or so they say. I do feel like we're seeing why this character has endured for so long, 80, 85 years, whatever. And also it makes it feel like, this character is necessary in a sense. It's not just like this. A lot of people think that Superman's boring, and it depends on how you write him. He can be boring, but any of these superheroes can be boring. I mean, Captain America can be boring if you think of him as just he's just like this iconic American hero. But then you take a movie like Winter Soldier, and you see this is you kind of flip that idea on its head, where it's like he's for America, but then when he sees what the government's doing, he starts to question everything. Right. And this is the same thing you have...
Fucking Hydra.
Exactly. So I just want to do two, unless you had something else to add, I just have two little quick questions.
I feel like we're getting towards the end.
Oh, yeah, no, we are. I just had two quick questions. Did you have a favorite quote or a favorite scene in the movie?
No.
No, just and you don't. That's fine if you don't.
I did like when basically the robot is I want to be Gary. Whatever he said. I mean,
I heard that was an ad lib, which is even better.
I believe it. I don't know. I mean, that's to me that's very Alan Tudyk. Yeah. So I'm not shocked to hear that might be an ad lib. And any excited noise that Krypto made, I'm down with.
Oh, sure.
What about you?
I loved the part where he was trying to convince Lois that he was punk rock, and he's saying the bands that he likes, and she's like, those are pop radio bands. He goes, they're not punk rock, they suck. And he goes, well, a lot of people like them.
Yeah, that's true. That. And meanwhile, she sees that poster in his room. Yeah, when she's at his house, and he's trying, they're trying to get him better enough to go back to the fight, and she thinks it's really sweet.
Yeah, I think people say that's sort of you almost see her kind of like if she wasn't in love with him already, that's kind of her falling in love with him.
And that was the scene that let you see. I mean, none of these, most of the scenes in this movie, everybody's doing a good job, but there's not a lot of subtle or acting choices. And Rachel Brosnahan is a fine actress. Yes. But she,
Drew's making gestures.
Don't do it. That was just for you, buddy.
Thank you.
But she,
subscribe to our Patreon. For,
somebody,
I'll take a picture.
Ew. somebody gets to act something other than screaming out exposition or just
Yeah.
being really broad. And
Sure.
they certainly got people in the cast that can do that.
Definitely. And one last thing, and then we'll wrap this up. Is there any like DC project that you're? I mean, there's like 10 more movies coming after this that are part of the whole plan that they're looking to do. Was there anyone in particular that you know of, or maybe that wasn't announced that maybe you'd be interested in seeing them do?
There isn't, only because I have read, an article that said this is what they're going to do. These are the movies that we're going to make. First of all,
Is there one you're looking forward to out of
well,
that
but
list?
I mean, here's my point. I don't remember any of them, so I don't know.
Well,
there might
but
be.
is there something maybe that you might be interested in seeing?
I mean, probably you'd have to show me the list, and I might be like, okay, that might be good. I just don't remember.
Oh,
And
that's fine.
a lot of the times with these things, as everybody knows, Marvel's announced a ton of stuff. That
Yeah,
never
that ends up.
happened.
I know.
Star Wars
I'm
is
still
is
waiting
even
for
worse with that.
Blade.
Yeah, that would have been fun, but whatever.
know,
And
there's no way it's gonna
Star Wars did that all the time, and it's basically the one you can count on is James Bond will return one way or another. He always
one way.
returns.
I'm actually looking forward to. They're making a Clayface movie that they're going to do like a horror movie.
Okay,
Do you know who almost got the lead role in that?
I hope it wasn't Mahershala Ali because he was released from Blade.
No, Jack O'Connell, Remick. Apparently, he was one of the. They think they had narrowed it down to like 3 people. I don't know who got it, but he was in talks for the lead role. I'm actually also interested to see.
A story punk favorite.
There you go. Yes, the Swamp Thing, because I remember. Here's another super TV story for those that know our loyal fans. My favorite super TV story. But anyway, that was a movie I saw on Super TV '80s, the old '80s Swamp Thing movie. Anyway, I think that's probably a wrap there on Superman, and we will be back next week for another script to screen over analysis. Also, I do want to just make a quick shout out to
Oh, we were so close.
I know the Instagram page it's at StoryPunkPod.
Yes.
If you want updates on the next episode, and also I do update the Facebook page. And I do on there. I put like interesting cinema related links there. Oh, also I'm on Letterboxd, Storypunk Scott, if you
Excellent.
care about that. And
we are available on. I'm almost certain your favorite podcast provider.
oh yes,
We are
thank you for
all
reminding me
over-
of that.
We're all over the place, and we would really appreciate it if you subscribed,
Yes.
if you reviewed it.
We're on all the major platforms
Apple,
and some
Amazon,
of
everyone.
and some of the not so major
Yeah.
ones too.
Pocket Casts, one of my favorite.
yes.
Lots of different stuff.
Oh, which one? I'm sorry.
Pocket Casts.
Okay, yeah, I talked right over that. I
That's
apologize.
all right.
So if you don't have anything else to add, then I will say until next time, remember that story matters.